Hello, everybody. My name is Kenneth Hardcastle,
I'm Anna Karras.
and this is the Collier County Public Library Virtual Book Club discussing Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. On a quiet Tokyo side street sits the basement cafe, Funicula. Mangled that. Urban legend has it that the cafe will allow you to go back in time, and the legend is, of course, completely true. However, there are some rules that make it very tricky. First, the only people you can meet are those who have visited the cafe. Second, no matter how hard you try, the present will not change. Third, you must stay in the cafe in one particular seat. And finally, you only have as long as it takes for a cup of coffee to cool. With all these rules in place, why bother? The visitors and staff of the cafe have their own reasons. What did you think of Before the Coffee Gets Cold?
This was interesting. We've done a lot of multicultural stuff before, but we've never really done a Japanese or Far Eastern novel before. And I thought that it was so different from a Western novel. And I thought it was a really interesting thing to compare what a Western mindset finds important as opposed to what an Eastern mindset finds important.
Absolutely. The novel's probably considered a science fiction title.
I would say magical realism, even though it's not in the South American, Latin American trend. I would say that definitely it has a magical realist feel to it.
Definitely. I think a lot of people will still kind of lump it in with science fiction, though.
Okay.
Our catalog has it as fiction.
Yeah.
But as it happens so often in the genre or in magical realism, once you adjust to whatever the unusual circumstances are, you find at its heart a very moving human story.
Right.
And that's what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you mentioned, it's a Japanese novel, so it provided a lot of insight into Japanese culture. They had a large emphasis on family, social norms.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I just swallowed wrong. Please continue.
And then proper behavior is another
oh, yes.
big deal.
Behavior and comportment are very huge in Japanese culture.
Yeah, and you saw the characters bowing a lot, or making little ritual acknowledgments of each other that would have more import to a Japanese reader than it does to us. Like, they understand what exactly is going on in the background at that moment.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's
we
very
don't.
true. That's true.
Let's get to the questions.
Okay.
First question is, the book was originally a play. Did you notice a playwright's touch in the chapters at all?
Oh, absolutely. It was very, well, I should let you answer this first since you're the actor. So why don't you go ahead?
And if you have any suggestions, go ahead and add them to the comments, and we can get a conversation going. So I didn't know that as I was reading it. So I didn't really particularly notice playwriting techniques, except for one very useful one, which is that all of the action takes place in one room.
Exactly.
So you don't need set changes.
Nope.
It's really helpful. It absolutely can't take place anywhere else because of the rules.
Because of the rules, yes.
And now that I'm thinking about it that way, I absolutely saw a lot of opportunities for touching moments or fun visual comedy, like Harai falling out of the cabinet.
Yeah, after her sister had left.
After her sister leaves,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
But as I was reading it, I didn't really notice that kind of cinematic quality. How about you?
Well, I thought, I didn't I put these questions together before I read the book, and I completely forgot about them before I read the book. So I didn't also have this question in mind as I was reading, but I did notice a very stage-like quality to it after I thought about it. Like you said, it takes place in one room. There are, even though there are a lot of characters in this book, there's still a limited cast of characters in this book.
There's about 3 people who work at the cafe, about
couple of
4 or 5
customers.
people who come into the
Right.
cafe. That's who you're looking
Exactly.
at.
Yep.
A group of about maybe 10
Mhm.
actors
Right.
if you're casting it in a play.
It did make it difficult because a lot of their names started with the same letter,
Mhm.
which made it difficult for me. I had to go
True.
back and say, okay, now which one was this one? But it was
Miko, Fusagi, Kotake, Kei,
yes, Kazu.
Kazu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it, but I really enjoyed the challenge, and I thought it was a very it wasn't a hugely it was a very quiet novel, and I really dig quiet novels.
Mhm. And it's very
That's
short.
the way I am.
You
Yeah.
definitely have enough time to finish it before the discussion next week.
Absolutely.
So, give it a shot if you want to. Question 2.
Okay.
Discuss each character's reasons for time traveling. Do you feel any character was satisfied with the knowledge gained as a result? Spoiler heavy question.
Spoiler heavy question,
but
yes.
we'll
and-
avoid them.
Right. I do think that some of the characters did get what they were looking for. I do think there was a certain amount of satisfaction
I think
in
all of them.
each
got
one of
what
the
they were looking
stories.
for.
There were 4 different sort of vignettes that the novel was told through, and I think that, without giving too much away, that yes, there was a certain amount of satisfaction in each of them that went back in time.
So, Fumiko wanted to go back and talk to her boyfriend.
Who had left?
Kotake wanted to go back and talk to her husband,
Who was
who had left
Alzheimer's.
in a kind of way.
in a memory sense, yes.
Harai wanted to talk to her sister.
Right.
No spoilers there.
No.
And Kei wanted to talk to her daughter.
Yes.
So they all wanted to go back and talk to somebody,
Mm-hmm. And while they knew they couldn't change the present, it was possible that future events that had not happened yet could be influenced. Hi, Gail. Thank you for watching.
So speaking of the rules, question 3: which of the rules do you think are fair, and which rule did you find the most maddening?
I don't know that any of the rules were fair. I mean, what is fair? It doesn't seem to me that. I don't think that any of the rules were really very fair. I think the most maddening was that you had to sit in a certain seat, and it was almost exclusively taken up by a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
That you had to wait for her to get up to go to the bathroom before you could sit down.
That's an unwritten
sit in the
rule.
seat.
It's not a rule of the time travel. It's just there's a ghost there too. So, deal with that.
And if you try to physically move her, she'll curse you,
Right.
which is not fun.
So I thought that the rule that you can't leave the cafe, while limiting, made perfect sense, especially from a playwright's perspective, as we just discussed.
Exactly, yes.
And the time limit is obviously a means to kind of raise the stakes and heighten the drama.
Mm-hmm.
But the most maddening rule to me is that no matter what you do, the present does not change. And there's no why, it's just that's the rule.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like if you change the past, you should be able to change the present, but it won't. You can't. And it's just the kind of time travel paradox that breaks your mind in any kind of story like this.
It's almost like the author used it as a device for him to make it easier to write. I'm not saying he did. But thinking like a writer, I would definitely consider that.
Mm-hmm. It breaks your mind if you think about it too much,
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you think of the loophole that you briefly mentioned earlier, is that
Future events.
it doesn't necessarily limit the future. So, very tricky. Question number 4.
Okay.
Discuss the cafe staff and their role in providing and protecting this magical experience.
Cafe staff were interesting. Let's see. We had Kazu. We had what was her husband's name? Was it Kazu who was married? No, it
Kei was married to Nagare,
Nagare. That's
who
right.
owned the cafe.
Who
I
owned the
think
cafe.
it
Kazu
was
was
in his
just
family. Or-
somebody who worked there, or was she a cousin? Or?
Kazu was Nagare's cousin.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Nagare, huge owner of the cafe, just big guy. I think the cafe was in his family, and Hello, Suela. He's a traditionalist in the hospitality world, so he hand drips his own coffee, he makes his own butter, he takes an immense amount of pride in that, and he brings in, you know, customers who want that unique experience that way. And then Kay is his wife, who's kind and bubbly and kind of the customer service mainstay of the bunch.
Right.
And then Kazu is his cousin, and she's a somber artist, and she's the only one that runs the ritual that actually
Pouring the
sends people
coffee.
back to the past.
Right.
So, and she always makes sure that they know the rules and the risks involved in doing it.
And she reiterates them explicitly before each particular travel back in time.
She also manages the ghosts somehow.
Yeah, she does, which is tricky.
So, yeah, it's a interesting bunch, and I don't know, you should read the book.
You should. It's I thought it was quirky and charming.
Question number 5
Okay.
is discuss the concept of duty to others and its centrality in this novel.
I think the story that, well, there's a lot of them that come up, you know, that have to do with doing your duty to others, the people that are in your life, your family, your loved ones. But I think maybe because it was the one with the husband and wife where, what's his name,
Fusagi.
Fusagi, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. And he was the one that had Alzheimer's, and his wife, who was also a nurse, decided that once he had forgotten her, I'm sorry I'm giving this away, but she would just be his nurse, and that would be it for her. And it was heartbreaking, and yet she was dedicated to doing her duty by her husband because she loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that really spoke a lot to doing your duty when things, regardless of how difficult things become, between the two characters that the relationship is talking about.
And duty was also extremely important to the third vignette.
Yes, of course, the sisters.
Where Harai spends the novel hiding from her sister. Her sister just wants her to come back. Harai kind of was exiled from the family, sort of. And her sister just wants her to come back, and the third part is her kind of reconciling with that, and you know, seeing how she makes the decision to go back to that duty.
Mm-hmm.
So the duty to family is present in all of the stories,
Yes.
but it's a lot more recognizable.
Those two, I think.
Those two.
Yeah, I agree.
So, bonus question.
Bonus question.
There is a epigram in the novel.
Yes.
It's just a quote. It says quote, and it's not attributed to anybody, but it says, "If you could go back, who would you want to meet?" So, who would you want to meet?
It's a tricky question. I would probably say one of my grandparents. I'm not sure which one. Oh yeah, and if you have an answer to this question, please pop it in the comments so we can know what you're thinking too. Probably one of my grandparents. My grandmother, who was my father's mother, was very close to me. She lived with us when I was a little kid, and I think that I would just want to. She told me a lot about her life, but there are still some questions that I wanted to ask her.
Mm-hmm. And I have a very similar answer. I'd like to meet my mother's father, who I am named after, and he died before I was born.
Wow,
So
that's cool.
I'd like to go back and you know, have a chat with him.
Have a chat with him.
So,
Very nice.
next week, Tuesday, September 28th, 2 p.m., we are going to be discussing this book on Zoom. So send your emails to Anna, and we'll talk to you then.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to our little chat today, and hope you, if you haven't read the book yet, like we said, it's very short. you would have a chance to easily read it in a week and come join us next week.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.